Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Freeman Files here on the J Free 906 podcast channel. Mike, Owen, and I here with you tonight. And man, do we've got some good stuff to talk about tonight. What do you think, Mike?
Yes, we do.
Oh
They're
my
they're
gosh.
definitely going to end the season on a high note. I'm
I
thinking.
think so. I
Getting
think
ready for the
so.
last episode next week.
Yeah. Oh man, I know. Last week I watched last week. It was pretty good and I enjoyed it. And then we were watching last night and I was just sitting there in my chair, Christine and I watching this thing going, "Oh man, this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about tonight." So,
Yep.
oh, can't wait to get started. We'll get started here in just a moment, folks. I wanted to say if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We also are live over on Rumble as well. So anybody that's over watching on Rumble, if you want to chime in, I'll watch the chat over there a little bit as well. But consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like the content of the show we do here for you tonight, consider giving us a thumbs up. It kind of helps us kind of gauge how we're doing and going along. And feel free to watch again later and comment on it. If you don't get your comments in tonight, we see that you're out there. Okay, all right. Saw that private chat there. So I tell you what, this is one of those episodes that I cannot wait. Absolutely cannot wait to see next week because of the content, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But this one scene that I have that it came with tonight's thumbnail, um, the bloody Bigfoot fight. I don't know that that's exactly what it was, but oh, some really, really good stuff. All right.
Yep.
Are you ready, Mike? Let's kick it off.
Yep.
All right. So this is Expedition Bigfoot Season 6, Episodes 6 and 7. Last week's episode where Mireya was looking at the stick and the fur. Did you see the black figure walk in the background? Oh, cameraman or Bigfoot? I did not see that.
Sure. Bye.
I'm going to have to go back and look now. So, yeah, I did not notice that. Interesting. You would think that somebody would have caught that on the camera and would have said something, one of the, producers or something, but oh my goodness. All right. Well, Simon, I'm going to have to go double check that now. Speaking of them too, this is where we start off because this episode started with them back looking at the tree structures. There was 3 of them and they were all about the same size. I remember when they were over in Northern California, they had smaller ones and bigger ones, and that one was like giant size. And they had a lot more sticks to them. These were not as big, but they did come across this interesting fur material that was like placed all around in different spots and even woven. And we had that one picture of that one that was like woven, and the tree bark was used as wrapping around it,
tied on it.
Yeah, tied onto it and everything. And remember, there was trees that they had spotted just before they got to this area where they saw strips or bark stripped away from the cedar trees or the trees that were there. So it could be belly fur. I'm not sure what it is. They're going to get it analyzed because you saw her bag it up. But
they did call it fur, though.
Yeah,
they did call it fur. I know we had some folks think maybe it was cottonwood or could be organic, some other kind of organic and not from an animal. But they said fur, so I'm gonna assume she was looking at it close with her own eyes, and she knows what she's looking at. So,
oh yeah, for sure. And they kind of talked about the fact that some, Bigfoots, and yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I'm going to look at this scene here a little bit closer to Simon and kind of see if I can spot that. Whereabouts on the screen was it? Behind the structure, or was it off to the right, to the left? Kind of give me a clue as to where you saw that, so I know where to be looking when I watch it again. But they were talking about all the different Bigfoot type creatures around the world. The Yeti, the snow, abominable snowman type creature, and all these different white hair, brown hair, black hair, red hair on them in different countries. So is it possible? Yes. Is it also possible that this might have been fur from something that they killed and ate or found in the woods or whatever? Yes, it is. It's possible. Could it have been from an old Bigfoot? If Bigfoot does truly exist, could this have been from an old Bigfoot? We don't know. We have no idea at this point.
There's nothing wrong with some silver hair.
No, not at all. Not at all, for sure. They did bag it and tag it, so we'll get to see. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, they did bag it and tag it, so hopefully we'll get to see some evidence after they do the data analysis on these samples. Here's a picture of those tree structures that they saw, at least one of them anyway. And they talked about how they were all lined up. You stand in the daylight, they could stand at the first one, they could see the second one and see the third one further into the trees. You can't see them on this particular shot here. This may have been the last one, we don't know. But they weren't as big. But one thing that they did talk about that I thought was interesting was the markings on them, like that fur stuff and those little wrapping that was hung on there. And then you saw there was one that Russell had found that had like a head of something carved. That, not the one where he had that eerie place in Alaska, but this was one where it had some sort of a thing of wood that was mounted on it, like some sort of a head or a figurine of some sort. And they talked about territorial markings by tribe or by family. I mean, what do you make of that? What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
I think everything's on the table. That's possible. I wish they would have done a little bit more. Like they said they found multiple and they were in a line. It would have been good to see like GPS location, just to see how straight was the line. Was there less distance between the first and the second, or less between the second and third? I know there's another show that's really good about using GPS on Oak Island. Maybe they can loan somebody out and go take some GPS readings on these structures, because all that information is important. That's a kind of data collection that I think is helpful. And sometimes you see a pattern that will tell you that there's more to it than meets the eye, or if you can see that same pattern repeat in different areas.
Yep.
So
that's good data as well.
Interesting. Is it a family thing? I mean, there's all kinds of interpretations of what tree structures are, or what they mean, or trying to assign. I'd like to find Bigfoot before I start assigning meaning to what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Find him, that'd be great.
Yeah, and we do know that indigenous peoples, First Nations people, what they have, they also do some of this kind of thing as well. I'm not going to say that they make tree structures in the woods and stuff like that, but they are tribal, of course, and tribal. They have all their symbolism for themselves, for their own tribes and that, and families, groups, and whatnot. So and there's obviously many in the area. So
and they're highly intelligent. So there's no reason we should assume they couldn't have a social structure strong enough or advanced enough to have specific identification by family group. We know they travel in family groups, or they're typically in family groups. So I'm open to
a lot of evidence of that.
To anything.
There is a lot of evidence of that. As you talk about the nesting, the larger nest, the smaller nest, the footprints that have been found, the bigger footprints alongside of smaller footprints. So there's been evidence of family groups maybe moving together and being together. So for sure. And I've said that before. If you go into this whole thing, whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, but you go into this whole thing that thinking that Bigfoot's nothing but a big dumb ape, you're missing the point completely, because if that were the case, we'd already found them. And so I don't agree with that one at all. They are very intelligent, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth as we go along here tonight, assuming, of course, that Bigfoot is real and some of this evidence is in fact Bigfoot related evidence. So another picture that Mireya showed, this was in that general area of those tree structures, and here's a bit of fur that they found on a tree branch. The same kind of fur, and Mireya is using her size, her shoulder there, to kind of get an idea of how high off the ground this was. Okay. You can see the fur there, shoulder height on her. So, could that be a bear? Probably not. Bears don't. I don't think there's white-haired bears up there, and polar bears running around in this area. So elk or something like that. Is it possible? Why not? Not going to say it isn't, but that's awfully high for any kind of a deer or anything like that traveling through the woods. That's an awfully high up off the ground. Now, here's the other thing that they found in that same area that was very, very interesting. They found that tree bark that had been stripped and hung over a branch. Very unlikely that it had fallen there. Those strips were probably taken from those trees that they saw the previous day. And they found this piece that had been split and moved over and hung over a branch. And then there was this. I don't have a clue what this thing is. Some sort of a totem, some sort of a I don't know. I don't know what this thing was. What do you think, Mike?
Are there feathers in there too?
There are feathers in there. Yes.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
Look at the feathers in it. 2 feathers are in this. One of them's got some beautiful coloring on it, and well, this one does too, but you can't see it in the light. But it's definitely feathers along with the hair. Yeah, there's definitely a bird wing. It's not a bird wing, but there are definitely feathers in it. And here's, I think I got a better picture of it. Oh, well, maybe let me see. Oh, there it is there.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the feathers very clearly on here. So there's wrapping, there's fur, there's all kinds of fur up and down the length of this thing, and there's feathers. I mean, it's just.
It was clearly created.
It was clearly created. Now, what created it, we have no idea at this point. Unfortunately, we do not. But something with thumbs created this thing, or something with enough intelligence that wanted to create such a thing made this. Now you see where it's at. This is the other key thing about it. Look at where they're standing, looking up at this thing. Okay, it's right here. Biko is about 6 foot tall. Mireya 5 something. I'm not going to say for sure because I have stood next to her and talked to her, but I don't know. 5'8", maybe 5'9". She's certainly not very short. But I mean, look at where they're looking up at this thing. How high it's right there. You can see it right here in the tree, right there. Okay. Again. What would have put it up there that high into a tree as a marker? I really don't have a clue other than a human being. If a human, and that's something that they were talking about, if a human didn't make it and didn't put it in that tree, what could have? If it wasn't human, it could only have been an intelligent creature that was making some sort of a marking for others of its kind out there in the woods. Now, what else would do that? Would it be a Bigfoot, I guess, or an alien or something? I don't know. Nothing else in my mind would have done anything like that.
No.
I kind of go along with lemon drops and rainbows there. I was worried it was a bad omen and that she took it as she did. And that kind of bothered me too. There's another look at it. You see how big this thing is, had a big loop on the top, and she did bag it. And she took some stuff off of that tree structure. Now, I was more Bigfoot eye level. Think about it. Yes. Yeah. When we mark a trail, it's marked at eye level. Yes.
Yep.
That's absolutely right, Kat. And you're going to put something that high in the tree, you're going to put it at eye level of whatever it was. You're not going to put it up so high you would. Now they saw it, fortunately, but they were looking around for stuff at this point. They found that fur in the tree. They found the fur on there. So now they're looking around at everything, and that's probably why they noticed it. But she did bag it. And I was thinking not so much for the spiritual evil side of it, but I was thinking, well, if a creature saw them or knew that they took it, it might want it back. Or it might be mad at them for taking it. So talk about going and wrecking somebody's campsite. You know, what bad things might that bring along? I don't know. Um, so yeah, so anyway, they kept going. So that personally to me, I mean, I don't know. We're getting a lot of chat about this, and again, did you have anything you wanted to add about the whole this whole thing? I mean,
No, like I said, I don't know what to make it for intent wise, but I think it's pretty clear. There's only probably about two possibilities for who could have created it and put it there.
yeah, me too. Yeah, I agree. Hopefully it isn't going to be a bad omen for the team. Yeah. How would you feel if somebody took your special ornament? Exactly. That was my point. It has meaning to someone or something. Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Absolutely. Now, could somebody knowing that they were in the woods out there had gone into the woods and put it there as a something to tip them, to try to fool them? I guess so. But it goes back to that same thing. Either a human or Bigfoot put that in the tree, made it and put it in the tree.
Yep.
So yeah, whichever one it was. Yeah, deer are usually under 4 feet by the shoulder head, and yeah, a moose maybe. Yeah, 7 to 8 feet tall at the shoulders or the head, maybe. Yeah. So it is evidence. That's sure. That's absolutely true. Now, hopefully, these
Tested.
things will not be something that we'll never hear about ever again,
Right.
like some of
Get
the
it
stuff they
tested.
captured last year. I hope that doesn't happen because I really want to know more about this stuff. Okay. So they followed this line. They kind of followed the line of those tree structures, and Biko got a map out, was looking at the map and said, "Oh, there's a lake right over here." So they kept on going and they made their way over to a lake. Now, before we get to that, um, I want to talk a little bit about Russell and his trail cams. Um, as you know from if you watch the previous episodes, Russell had set up a trail cam, these two trail cams on trees that were about 8 feet apart, maybe 10 at the most. He set up these trail cams and they got set off. Something had gone through the woods, but he went and looked and there was nothing on them. Absolutely nothing on them. No evidence at all. So this time, because like Mike and I have talked about, the possibility that if Bigfoot exists, it can see the infrared light that's being sent out by these units, and therefore it would know where they are. It'd be able to see them, or it can sense the electromagnetic field that's generated by electronics, and it would know that it's there. So Russell decided to make them camouflage them, and he hung these little. You see the ferns hanging on the back of that tree, or the branches hanging on the back of that tree. He made these little branches to be over top of them. The trail can blinds, yes,
Ingenious. Yeah. No, I
ingenious.
thought
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
a pretty good idea because I
very
mean,
good.
if it is the IR they see,
Mhm.
so cover that
Watch it.
up and
Yeah,
then drop it with a tripwire. That was fantastic.
yeah, yeah. It was a great idea. How big of a span do those cameras capture? It'll look into the woods quite a ways, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as I don't know. You can tell by looking at the pictures that we'll show you here in just a
Yeah.
few minutes. But he set these up, and he had those, like Mike just said, he had a tripwire on the ground, had them covered with these branches, trip the tripwire, the branches fall, and then capture whatever tripped the tripwire. Great idea. Well, it didn't work. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
Yeah.
He was out tracking. He knew something had gone back that direction. So the next morning, that's when this is, he goes back to that area, sees that his tripwire had been tripped. The log had fallen, everything had dropped. He figures, okay, I've got some evidence. Checks the first cam, nothing's on it. It did get set off. It did get tripped, but there's no video evidence of nothing but trees on it. Okay.
Yep.
Then he looks over at this one and it's not pointing where it originally was pointing. It was pointing, it was actually positioned about right here, looking straight toward the camera perspective of this guy taking the cameraman taking this picture.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't know if folks if you don't have experience with a trail cam, I can tell you that that strap does not have to be tight to make it really hard to rotate the camera because the bark is rough and it catches on that strap all the way around the circumference of the tree.
Yep.
And if you get it at the wrong, if you get it facing in the wrong spot and you need to move it, you might as well start over and loosen the strap all the way up and position the camera and tighten the strap again, because it is not easy to rotate a camera. And you see the gouges.
Mm-hmm. There's a little tab right here that actually acts as a gripper onto the tree. So when you tighten it up, it actually grips onto the bark a little bit. This line you see right here is from whatever grabbed it and moved it. And it scraped the bark of the tree. Now we'll get into that here in just a moment, a little deeper, because something moved that thing. And that's what Russell was. He was just like, oh man, look at this thing. It's been moved. He goes, it has to have something on it that I can capture. So this is where he said it was pointing. It was pointing over there, which was where the perspective of the camera. And you can see that gouge again. You can see it on the side there. Did it move the camel branches as well? You can see the camel branches did get tripped. They're still hanging right here. But it didn't move those. Those are still hanging where they were. Their idea was for them to fall straight down out of the way. And they did their job. When the whole structure got tripped, they did their job. But you see the camera's now not pointing in the direction it was.
Yeah.
Another good thing that was on it, and you can see that little brace, that bar, that was the thing I was talking about right here.
Oh yeah,
you can see it very clearly right there, and it digs into the tree a little bit. It just provides a little bit more stability for it being on the tree, like Mike was saying. But here's the really cool part, right here. Hair.
Yep.
Long, reddish brown hair on that thing. Would it have been a moose? Could a moose bumped into it and pushed it around? Maybe, but why didn't it capture the moose? I mean, I don't know. He didn't see any moose tracks in the area.
Yeah. It's a pretty thick piece of hair.
And it's a very thick piece of hair. Russell does take it and put it into a specimen bottle, and hopefully we'll find out the evidence of the data behind that piece of hair that was found. I certainly hope that we do, because that was really, really a very good catch. So we'll get to see that now. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. We'll get back to that and look at the video that was taken on that. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what, let's do that now. Let's do that right now. Before we get too much further on this, let me bring up, I did capture some of this video on this. So let me make sure that I got this queued up properly. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now this first clip is Russell, and he's messing with the cam that the trail cam that it was on. The one that got moved, he's messing with it here, and then you'll see the video footage that it captured. It's going to be on there 3 times. Once zoomed, or twice zoomed in a little bit. The first one, it'll be on just looking at the display on the cam itself. So check this out right here. This is pretty cool stuff. And tell me what you see, folks. There it is on the camera or on the machine. And Russell's like, what the? One more time. Okay. Besides the fact that it got moved, you saw hair. Now, remember that when they're looking in the trail cam night vision, whatever's black shows up white, and what's white shows up black, or dark colors show up lighter colors, and light shows up darker color. Okay. So here, let's watch that again. Something, and you'll see Russell talks about this. Something, yes, hair. Something moves it. And you can see hair in the camera right there. Right there on the left side, you see hair. Now Russell will take, and he looks at this a little bit more, and he talks about right there how it got pushed. It got pushed out of the way. And that, you see how high off the ground that was.
Mm-hmm.
So if something like an elk or a moose or something like that would have done it, it would have had to been their head, maybe a very tall moose with a shoulder or something, but maybe brushed it and pushed it around. I'm thinking it was a hand. I wish we would have seen an actual finger. The finger would have been awesome.
Right. Yeah. Maybe a fingerprint. See the dermal ridges or something. That would have been good. Yeah, I'm not sure I saw, unless they do an analysis of that later. I didn't see anything that would have been part of the finger. All I saw
didn't
was
either.
the hair.
Yeah, I just saw hair.
And the fact that it gouged the bark on the tree when it did it, obviously took a lot of force.
Yes.
So, raccoons climb trees without any trouble at all. But they never would have had the strength to push it to the point it gouged the bark.
Right.
So to me, it had to be a large animal. And there's only so many of those that would have been up that high.
Yeah. I'm watching it again here to see if there's any evidence that I can see of a finger. Here, let me bring it back up here real quick. I'm kind of looking at it slowly here. You see, this is all hair right here and hair here. I don't really see a finger. Try to stop it as it goes there. Yeah, I don't really see a finger. Yeah. Yeah, no finger like mentioned on the show. Maybe head, hair. So curious. Yeah. I don't know. I don't see a finger either. But as Mike just mentioned, hopefully this will be something that Bryce already has it. Later in the show, he ends up with this video footage back in the command center, and he will be going through it very cleanly to see what he can see on it. But so if there is a finger, he'll find it. He'll find it and bring it out to all of us so we can see it as well. But as Mike said, something with force moved that camera and pushed it out of the way. Now, if it was done accidentally, okay, but why? You think about that tree, and that tree is kind of jagged. And I'm going to show you this again. You see, I'm going to show just here the remnant of it. You see where Russell's standing there, and he's looking up. It's up higher than his head, and he's 6'2", something like that. He's a little bit taller. Well, he's about the same height as me. I'm 6 foot. He's 6'1", somewhere around there. If it was something's head, their head's going to be right up against that tree.
Yeah.
When they're walking along. If it's a shoulder, they're rubbing that tree as they walk along. And maybe they were going around that log that was laying on the ground. I don't know. But I don't know. It sure looks like a hand or something pushed it.
There's also, you can see in this picture, there's a lot of little twigs.
Yes.
And branches. And if it was a large animal like a moose going through there, you would have thought there would have been a lot more evidence of that, an animal that size going through there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those little twiggy looking branches would have been snapped off as it pushed through. And obviously, if it was a moose or maybe an elk or something, it would have been incidental contact. Mm-hmm. To me, this looked very intentional to push the camera in a different direction that it was pointing.
Yep. Yeah. Mountain lion, probably not, simply because there's no claw marks that he saw. He didn't see he didn't mention seeing any kind of claw marks or anything on the tree. Yeah,
mountain lion.
So I don't think it would have been that, but yeah, he's pretty tall. That's up pretty high. So if it was something's head, that head would have been brushing that tree as well. So, that's kind of unlikely, not impossible, but it's more likely it was a hand pushing it out of the way. I don't know.
Good thing is there was a hair on it, and if it was a moose or an elk or whatever else, they could easily identify that. And if it doesn't have a medulla, then it's a
Yep.
good candidate to be a Sasquatch.
Yep. No Medela. Yep. Well, we'll find out as we go along with that. All right. So let's continue on here. I'll bring up the next so we'll get a look at that hair. That hair will be interesting to see what they come up with on that, for sure.
Yep.
This next little picture I've got here, and going back to that hand. Now, this is the hand that Bryce saw with his crew when they got back to the command center. It was on the window next to the screen door, he said. And it was a handprint. Now, he had taken and he dusted it and he put the film on top of it and then peeled the film off. And he sent this to somebody to look at. And the guy, his name was Esteban Sarmiento. And he took a look at this. Now, one of the things was this gentleman here, he's a primatologist and biologist. And he was talking about this hand and the fact that it had a small thumb. It looked to me, or looked to him, as though it had a small thumb. Now, you take our hands, and he said it's somewhere between an ape hand or an orangutan hand and a human hand as far as thumb size, in relation to the fingers and the palm and everything else. The other thing he noted was that it was more flat. And he talked about something ape-like would be more fingertips touching the glass, not the palm. Um, do you have anything on that, Mike? You want to add to that, or
The reports of that people make when they do describe the hands, they usually describe that thumb as being, where's the camera? Further down on the hand,
Mhm.
which would be a little
Right.
bit more like an ape,
Right?
a little less like a human. Um, but then the length of that thumb, like he was pointing out, was longer. Humans have a much longer thumb in relation to the length of the fingers,
Mhm.
and apes have a much shorter thumb in relation. Yeah,
Yeah, this was
and it's
the
somewhere in
hand of
between.
orangutan, and
Hmm.
you see that the thumb doesn't even reach this first set of
Yeah,
joints right here on your palm, where mine does. It passes. It's longer than that. So, and you see the orangutan is shorter thumb, very long fingers. And then he put it up against a human hand, and you see that the thumb goes beyond that set of knuckles here, and the right above the palm. So somewhere in between is what he was saying that this one was. And it would have been, like so. Now, why would there have been a handprint? A lot of people have come on and talked about handprint. Why would something have left a handprint? Maybe it was a scam. Somebody scammed them or whatever. Think about something interested in the building that was there, the house that was there, and peering in the window.
yeah,
You know, putting your hand up to the glass and looking inside. There was blinds on the inside, and they were not all the way closed. They were somewhat still open. So if you went up there and looked in there, you could see between the slats and see inside the house.
yeah,
Was it something that simply wanted to look in the window? That's kind of what it seems like. It
yeah.
didn't do any damage.
And I think you have to take into consideration too that um, you can't just assume that that was a single press against the window. You could have initially left the heel of the hand and then maybe the edge of the hand, and then it could, I mean, it's recorded all of the touches that happened over time,
Mhm.
whether that was all at once or a couple of different times, it's you don't really know, but
Yep.
no, there's plenty of reports of Sasquatch looking in windows, tapping on windows. So it it's not surprising at all
Mhm.
that there's a handprint on the window.
Yeah. And I go along with what you just said about the print actually recording the movement of the hand. And look at these fingertips. Like
Yeah,
this one here is not even in line with the finger, the
right.
rest of the finger.
Double
This
touch.
one is going up and then the tip goes off to the side. So what Mike just said makes absolute sense, that it was probably a manipulation of movement on the glass of the handprint, not just simply stamp and leave.
Yeah.
So very good analogy. Thank you for that, Mike, because you can clearly see, you even see a little bit of a slide right here
Yeah.
on these two top ones. So
Yeah.
like
A
it
little.
slid down just a fraction
Yep.
on the fingertips as it touched. I think it's very good evidence. What they can make of it now from anything, beyond, he said it was about 13 inches from top to bottom. And I forget, the 6 across the palm, I think.
Yeah.
I forget what it was across the palm. Humans are generally 4. When they measure horses, they call them hands, 14 hands. So it's like the palm, you're measuring with the hands, you're about 4 inches or so. I think he said this across the palm was about 6, and then from the fingertip to the palm, the base of the palm was about 13 inches. That's
Yep.
huge.
That is a very big hand.
That's a huge hand.
I wouldn't want to get in a fight with him.
No, absolutely not. Or grabbed by this thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, Esteban gave a good analogy of that, and I thought that was very good, interesting information that he passed on. So I was very happy to hear all that he had to give us on that. So um, I don't know that we'll get anything more on this hand. I don't think there's much more that can be derived. There's no fingerprints. You're not going to get fingerprints on it. They're not going to be in a database someplace unless the government has a database of Bigfoot handprints someplace. But I know, I was joking. So these guys, we're jumping over to Mireya and Biko again in this scene here. Now, what they had done was they had followed, though they were following the tree structure alignment. Biko looked on his map. He saw what looked like a lake. So they decided to go and take off. And you never know, right, Sharon? I assume you're talking about the government database of handprints, of fingerprints of Sasquatches. So they go over to the lake, and then they decide to put together a blind. Dr. Mayor wants to get out in the middle of the lake with this blind and kind of hide out there. So they get a hold of Bryce. He brings out some materials for him, a rubber boat and all that. So they had to build a blind in there that her and her cameraman could get into. I assumed she had a cameraman with her, or camera person with her out there. So they create this blind, spend a lot of time on it, but it did get some results, which was cool. So she goes out in the lake. Biko climbs in a tree on the shore, and they start their nighttime investigation. It was pretty cool. There you see her out there on the lake, or the blind out there.
Share that with us, Jeff.
Huh?
Share
Oh,
that picture,
geez.
please.
I'm sorry. There we go.
Sharing is caring. Thank you.
Share. There it is. There they are making it. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me that you all can't see that. I'm looking over here, looking at it. Yeah. So yeah, there they are making it, creating this thing on the rubber boat. Linda's laughing. She's having a good time with that. And there it is on the lake, and it's a good blind. They did a good job with it. Very creative.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough. And at nighttime, even better, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I'm going to jump over to a scene here of what she captured from this. Now, like I said, she's in the water. Biko's in a tree, and they get some thermal footage here. So let me bring that up, and we'll show that thermal footage. Bear with me a moment. Let's bring this back here. All right, now I believe this is the thermal footage. Let me take a look here. Make sure it's queued up. Yeah, it is. All right. So they start to hear something. They hear something like first Biko heard what he thought sounded like something being thrown in the water, made a splash. There is a government database. Again, that interview with Rich from the Flash of Beauty. Yeah, I know. I kind of was half joking there with that. I don't know. There is, yeah.
It's a good documentary, though.
Yes, it is. Yes. If you haven't seen that, Flash of Beauty, you need to check that out. Just go to YouTube and just look for Flash of Beauty. It's a good one. I think it's on YouTube, isn't it? I think that's where I watched it, if I remember right.
I think they may have released it in multiple platforms by now. Initially, I think you could only get it in one spot, but
yeah, I think it is now. So check it out. Just Google it, Flash of Beauty, and you'll see it. It's very good. Very good stuff. Yes, walking thermal footage. This is good here. Like I said, she's in the water. He's in a tree, and this thing is finally pictured and walking along here. So let's take a look at this clip real quick. And I kind of chopped this up, grabbing all the different footages of this thing moving. You can see it now. You're going to be looking. That's a shit. There's something definitely something moving on the shoreline. Okay, we're looking right here. And you'll see different movements as it, but it's generally going to be either just off left to center or to the left of the screen. You'll see it moving. But this is our target right here. And like I said, I took this and I cut out all the pieces of them talking, or most of them, and tried to just seam all the footage together of the actual thermal. So you'll see it jumping around a lot. I apologize for that, but that was my way of trying to seam it all together for everyone. So here we go. You can see it moving right there. Here it is right here. That was at the end of the show. Now, they're going to show a circle Biko sitting in the tree. He's right here. That's Biko sitting up in the tree. This is our target right here, just left of center. And as you see this thing moving along, it looks like it's somewhat hunched over. And Biko is up here, and he cannot see it. He's using a regular night vision binoculars or night vision camera. He can't see it, but she sees it very clearly, and it's right below him. It's walking on the shoreline right below him. Okay, let's keep moving here. We'll show that again here in a moment, but yeah, Biko could not see this thing. Like in many previous cases, it looks like someone tried approaching the pond, then felt the surveillance there and was immediately out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tatiana, I think you're right. That's kind of what it seemed like to me too. This was a good capture. I mean, it's definitely bipedal and upright. Yes, Sharon, you're absolutely correct. You can tell by watching and it looks a little hunched over, John. Yes, exactly. He is walking kind of slow. Yes, like he's looking for something. It's almost like he doesn't know. And and that's the thing, is that Biko's talking on his walkie-talkie. She's talking to him. She goes, "It's right below you," and he's, "I can't see it." I find it hard to believe that thing could not hear them talking.
Yeah, right.
It's that close. It seems that close, based upon what we're looking at in the thermal footage. All right, I'm going to play that again just because I love it. I want to play it one more time for everybody. Again, you're watching for that movement right in this area, just left of center. Right there it is, right there. Walking along. Okay, now you see it here. It's hunched over. You see Biko there in circle. And it's walking along like it's looking at the ground, looking for something. It's kind of like shuffling its feet almost, taking very short little steps. Isn't that cool? I mean, is that a person? I don't think so. It could be, I suppose. It wasn't one of their camera guys. I don't believe that they would do that. I don't think that they would do something like that and have a camera person, faking it, like that. I really don't believe they would do that.
No.
It looks huge. I'm going to bring this up again, and I'm going to show you something when you speak of it huge. Okay. You see Biko, and Biko is probably about 6 foot. Yeah. Tom said likely hear or at least smell them. Yeah, for sure. Smell the humans. Here's Biko sitting in the tree. Now, granted, he is sitting down on some sort of a tree blind or something. So his full height is not shown in this picture. But look at the size of this thing from here to here. And I don't think that's a reflection in the water.
No.
So you're looking at this creature, whatever this thing is, from here to here. It looks twice as well. I'm not going to say twice as big. It looks like it would be taller than Biko standing there next to it, in my opinion. It looks bipedal, absolutely.
If Biko is sitting, you can just assume that that's basically the height of Biko's torso.
Yes.
From his bottom to his his head, and you compare that to what it looks like, the size of that creature's head to the bottom, its bottom.
Torso would be right about
yeah,
here.
right. That would be
Considerably higher.
considerably larger than Biko.
Yeah.
And obviously unconcerned with Biko.
Yeah. Yeah.
Given
That's the other
given
thing.
the way it's moving, it could have cared less.
Right.
It did not see him as a threat at all. And I think, like everybody's saying, it certainly knew he was there. He was
Had
stalking,
to.
like you say, they could hear it, probably could smell him. It didn't have a care in the world.
Yeah. I'm gonna play that part again real quick. Is it a reflection in the water? Maybe.
I don't think so.
I don't think it, man, I don't know.
You can see the legs moving in the bottom part there, so
Yeah.
I don't think so.
But again, like Mike said, it had to have known he was there, and it doesn't care. It's walking along looking for something. Maybe it's I don't know. I don't know. That's a good catch though.
Yeah.
That's a really good catch. Is part of it. Yeah. I thought the bottom was a reflection. It could be. It could be. I'm going to try to take another look at this and zoom in on it a little bit to see if maybe it is. It could be a little bit of a reflection. The thing of it is, it's one of two things. Again, same thing we said about the whatever made those little totems. I'm going to call them totems or ornaments. Something made those. It was either a human or it was a Bigfoot made those things. Nothing else would bother with making something like that. So I'm going to say the same thing for this. It's either a human walking down there or it's a Bigfoot walking down there. It's something bipedal. It's walking along right there on the shoreline. It doesn't care about Biko being in the tree. And so that leaves you with those two options. Now, he did get down out of the tree and he chased after it. And him and Mireya, they had to get the boat back. And I mean, he went after it first. She was still in the boat. She had to get over to the shoreline and then get out of the boat and everything. Maybe looking for a swamp rabbit. Kind of tastes like rabbit, kind of tastes like swamp. Is that what he said? While he was sitting there. But yeah, it was definitely bipedal. There's no doubt about that. Whatever it was not a bear walking on all fours.
Nope.
Looking for some crawdads for dinner, maybe. And the other thing you noticed about this, and I have noticed this in the woods myself. If I go out and I was doing some nighttime investigating in the woods, and you're sitting still, especially near a body of water, you're hearing all the nighttime sounds of the little animals and the bugs and whatever, making the croaking and all the sounds that would be near a body of water. But then you stand up and start walking and making noise and they hear you, it goes silent because it senses a predator in the area. And Biko had mentioned that. Everything went silent. And he made a comment about that during that whole scene there. And that's because you could hear at different points when you're talking, she's whispering, Mireya Mayor's whispering on her microphone. You could hear the crickets going, the frogs going and stuff in the background. But then it got dead silent. Now, was that because it sensed them or did it sense whatever this was walking along? I don't know. I do too, Brenda. I have asked her about that. And she said once this, I asked her at Phenomicon one year about coming on the podcast. And she said she would like to come on maybe with someone else, like Ronnie at the time. Ronnie was part of the show at the time, and he was there too, Ronnie LeBlanc. And so I asked him, I talked to him about it, and I never could get it worked out with them too. So I don't know. I don't know. Matter of fact, yeah, Brenda, I'm sorry, not Brenda, Marie Dumont, who is actually very familiar with or acquainted together. She actually mentioned it to her as well. Apparently she doesn't want to. I don't know. She's a pretty busy woman.
Yeah.
Got lots of kids and a career and all kinds of stuff going on. So, but we'll always have the door is always open if she'd ever like to. Okay. So let's keep moving along here. The next thing that I got here. Okay. So they finished up with that. One of the things that you remember that Russell had found that cabin in the woods. Yeah, Russell and I have talked about it. He has said he would come back on. I think he wants to wait till the season's over, so he can talk about the whole thing. So we'll see. But yeah, Russell and I have spoken about that. So hopefully he will. Um, so Russell's out. He's out at the cabin that they found. It's a logger's cabin, and he's hanging out in there with his camera guy. They're packing up. They're waiting for. He had already talked to Bryce when the sun was still up. He was talking to Bryce about the footage that he had on that trail cam of that pushing the trail cam out of the way, and he wanted to get that over to Bryce. And then he also needed some supplies brought out, some fresh batteries and whatnot, some stuff brought out. So he was waiting for that. Now, one of the protocols that they talked about on the show last night was the fact that they have to check in every 12 hours. And so these guys, and Russell and his cameraman are always out in the middle of nowhere, sleeping on the ground wherever they can, doing certain things. So he was pretty happy to have this cabin. So they made the call. Bryce is going to be bringing them some stuff. And they were assuming that arrival of Bryce would be his 12-hour check-in. They're at the cabin. Sun's down. They're going through some stuff, getting ready to go out and do some nighttime investigation. Russell hears that same sound that he heard before of and I call it, it's the clucking or clicking sounds, clacking sounds that were being heard, and I attributed this to like a bamboo wind chime, and you took a stick and just tapped on it in different places on it. That's the sound it sounds like to me. Now they heard that. Russell goes running out of the cabin, and because he heard it while he was inside, so it was very close. This picture here I've got of him is when he ran out to take a look with his flashlight. And then the camera guy's like, "Hey, wait, where are you going?" And Russell's like shining it down there because he's looking down the trail in the direction he heard the sound. He turns around and then he looks back because he hears it again. And I know that I don't know. Do you want to show that thing you have now, Mike, about
sure. The clicks?
sound wave? Yeah,
Or
Mike
whatever,
has this. I'm going to bring this up and let him bring up his. We had talked about that before, like teeth clacking or something. It was or sounds like that. That's the only thing I can do to make it similar. Now he's got to go ahead and talk about what you have here.
Sure. So this is called a spectrogram. And so what you've got across the top here is seconds, and along the left side is frequency in hertz, starting down at 10. And this is the split between, it's the just left and right channel. So to zoom in, I'm just looking at one channel. So 100 hertz, 200 hertz, 300, it's logarithmic. There's 1,000, 3,000, and I ended it at 9. But this is that sort of popping noise or clicking noise that we were kind of talking about. This was, I think, from, it sounded similar to this scene, but this was one of the previous episodes where this happened by itself. And I'll play this section real quick. Hopefully this still goes through, Jeff.
I'm going to turn it up a little, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we heard that clearly.
Okay.
Say it again one more time.
Yep. So that's the clicking noise. Then there was also the other version of that where it sounded like they were going back and forth. Mm-hmm. And where did it go? There we go. So you can see the clicks are right here. Same kind of shape. They look similar. They're spaced out roughly about the same. There's a little bit of difference between time-wise, going left to right. But then you have to look kind of close. The other sound is a smudge kind of on this spectrogram. It starts right here, then there's one here, 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 and here. And so the up and down is the frequency. So you'll hear these two are a little higher pitched. It goes lower pitched, and then higher again like the third one there. And I'll play this a couple of times quick.
Ding, 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 ding. It makes like a ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that to me almost sounds like water dripping in a cave because it's kind of got an echo to it.
Yes,
And that's why it's spread out a little more, where these are very distinct. That's a sharp sound. The clicking, tongue click or whatever it is, we're not sure how they're making the sound.
Yeah.
So anyway, you can tell that those clicks there are the same. Every time he hears them, they're roughly the same shape, and they're relatively fast. The frequency of them, how fast they're clicking, is pretty close to the same too. And then this was that one where it had the other sound too. So it's being consistent. So could it be the same thing making that sound each time, and it's just he keeps getting close to it?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. That's really good. I'm glad you that took that and put that on the what do you call that? A spectrograph?
Spectrogram. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We had something like that in the Navy. We were looking at radio signals with them, but interesting stuff. That's very, very cool because that kind of breaks down and we can see those different things. It was like a question and answer,
Yes.
a statement of response. You got dun, 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 and then you got that consistent click, 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 click across the bottom. So, what that is, who's making it, we have no idea. It's not a bear or anything like that. Could have been a person in the woods. Yeah, I suppose so. Could have been somebody messing with Russell, but he heard it while he was in the cabin, and then they go rushing out the door to see what they could find. Now, granted, now remember that they were waiting for Bryce to show up, but Russell's in the moment. When this happens right now, he's in the moment. He knows that something, whatever it is very close to the cabin. And we've talked about this before. Mike and I and Seth, we've talked about this before and said that if you're out in the woods and you're in an area where there's likely Bigfoots around, they know you're there. Any animal that is awake in the forest at night knows you're there. You're in their house, you're in their living room. So they know you're around. So could it have been coming to Russell to say something, checking him out or whatever? For him, it had whatever it was, if it was an intelligent creature, whether it be human or Bigfoot, had to know he was there, had to know that he was going to hear that. So was it calling to him? Was it trying to get him to come? Who knows?
Yeah.
But
it's not the first time he's been baited.
Yes, that's true.
He knows he's been snookered before. So yeah, that was uncharacteristic of Russ. They all said the same thing.
Yes.
But
yeah. Someone was in Flash of Beauty documentary, talked about clicking sounds means decloaking. Now you're
down the cloaking
yes.
unit. Yeah.
Yeah. Powering down the cloaking unit. Yes, that's true. Maybe Bigfoot looking for a Slim Jim. Come on, Kevin. That's good. I like that. So yeah, that takes us into a whole nother possibility area of why they disappear so darn easily.
Yeah.
Like the movie Predator. So so he hears it, he runs out of the cabin. Like you said, very uncharacteristic of him to do that. Left his sat phone behind, grabbed his small pack, shoved some stuff in it, and the camera guy was like, oh, all right, let's go. So off they went, running out the door. They go after this thing, and Russ he's a good tracker. He knows how to track things. So he's going through the woods, he's tracking this thing. If it's leading him, that's one thing. Whatever, he's tracking this through the woods. And then he comes upon him and the camera guy get to a point where they start hearing some horrendous sounds in the woods. This is where the excitement level of the show just went to 20 from a 5. And I'm going to show this clip here just real quick that I've got, and it goes continuing on from the clip before. And I think let me just make sure I've got this one set up here properly. Yeah, the first part of it is showing Russell as he hears it while he's in the cabin with the sound guy Josh, and he hears a sound and he goes running outside, and then we'll get on to the other parts here as we go along. Let me add this. There we go. All right, so here he is. He hasn't heard it yet, but yeah, he's in the moment, and he's like, "We got to go. We have to go right now." So they go into the woods, they go tracking this thing, and then they get to a point where they get to some sounds. And I recorded some of that. It's really, I don't know. I really hesitated on whether or not to even play it, because honestly, it's so hard to hear. Now I'm going to try to set this up for you. Russell hears growling, snapping of branches, rustling of underbrush and growth on the ground. It sounds to him like there's a struggle or something going on between two creatures. And that's why I used a thumbnail that I did tonight about a bloody Bigfoot battle, because this, like I said, sent the tension level of the show right through the roof. And if you follow him on his Facebook page, he was talking about this a little bit on there today. When he first heard the sound, and that's what this says right here, that sounded like a bear, didn't it? And I'm going to play this a little bit. And this, you don't have any sound here, but this is where he's trying to figure out what's going on. And he even said, this is a dangerous thing to be doing, going into an area where there was some sort of a struggle or a fight going on between two animals, whether they be bears or whether they be elk, whether they be whatever. You don't want to get in the middle of that, because the attention could go towards you at that point. That's a dangerous, dangerous thing to get into. But as you heard him say, he had to know what it was. He had to see it, to figure out what was doing it, what was making all this. When he gets over there, and I'm gonna bring up some of my pictures here first. Let me minimize this, because I've got a couple of pictures that I want to show first of all. Let's get this one here. When he gets to the scene, he sees some branches broken. The ground is terribly disturbed all around this whole area. And he described it as a crime scene. It was just, I mean, look at some of these pictures here. These branches are broken, and look at the height of where they are broken. You see one here, you see one up there. They're literally all over. The ground is tore up. Look at the branches here, all snapped off on this tree, and how in there the cameraman's standing up, so he's standing there looking up as he's taking these pictures.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of how high off the ground they are. There's some looking at the ground, branches broken, and the ground is all disturbed everywhere. There's branches broken, and you can see blood on the tree. And all these branches are broken all the way around. And again, he's standing up, looking up at these branches that are broken. What kind of and Linda and I were talking with Mike about this before the show started tonight. And we were talking about, there are bears that standing on their hind legs can be 8-10 feet tall. Could something like that have done this? Yes. Could they have made the sounds that were being made that Russell heard? Yes, probably. Is it likely that two bear were fighting in the woods like this? Don't know. I really don't know. There's blood all over the ground. Russell did not see any bear tracks. He didn't see any tracks at all, quite honestly, as he was going through all of this. There's a big patch of dirt that's been ripped apart. I mean, it's all, look at all the breakage everywhere. There was a battle going on here between something, a bear fighting a Bigfoot, maybe. Yes. And it was all after the teeth clattering. Yes,
Yep.
as he was going through the woods finding all this. Um, yeah, lots of disturbance. I'm gonna go back to the video real quick because that video is a little bit better on showing some of this here. When he's sizing up the tree that it looked like, and then you'll see Russell actually kind of demonstrate what he thought was going on. You can see the blood on right there first.
Yep.
Then they started seeing the blood everywhere else. Close by, and he's like, "Oh, we got to go. We got to go."
I mean, I can kind of understand how he ended up, forgetting his sat phone and being out past the 12-hour check-in because he didn't expect to be out that long. He thought, initially, let's just go see where that sound's coming from.
Right.
And then they hear the scuffle and the roaring. They go see that's all about, and they see the blood, and they want to start following the blood trail. So it just kind of daisy chained there went on a lot longer than he expected. So
Right.
so I get it, and it was good finds, good evidence to pick up.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, you would think with the blood there would also be fur. Maybe,
Or something.
maybe
Yeah.
there could be. They do go back next week, and we'll talk about this as we go along here. But next week they do go back over there in next week's episode. All of them, the whole team goes over there because this is something that, I mean, if I was working 10 miles away, I'd be like, no, I want to go see this. I want to go see what you saw here and investigate this. They do some castings on the ground. They some footprints. They might find hair in the daylight. I don't know. Yeah, we don't know what time of year. That's a bad part about this. We know it's not wintertime, obviously, but we don't know what part of the year this is. If it's during the bear mating season. He did mention that it's not elk. The elk are not in the rut, so they would not have that. Would they wouldn't be battling. So as they pack up, and now they're chasing after this. The sound that he heard as they he got his blood samples and everything. He put it into his backpack, and then they hear the sound. He's like, "Come on, we got to go." So they grabbed up everything. They take off. Yeah, so that would indicate summer, wouldn't it, John? Absolutely. So they take off into the woods. They go, and now he's got something he can really track. I mean, he can track. Russell's very, very good at this. He can track footprints and down vegetation and broken branches and all that kind of stuff very, very well. He's a very good tracker. But now he's got a blood trail he can track, which is even better. And this blood trail goes on and on and on. I mean, he tracks this thing for a couple of hours into the night or into the wee hours of the morning, whatever it is. Yeah, Joe, you're going to have to go back and watch it from the beginning because we covered a lot of good stuff here tonight. Sorry about that. So here's I've got another clip. As they go along, they hear a noise again, always in front of them, always that sound in front of them. And this was the one that they had showed on the premiere episode to entice us all about what was coming up in this season. This is that same clip, and this is when they actually saw that. So they're going through the woods. They hear some sounds. They stop for a minute. Russell's shining his flashlight on some trees ahead, and he captures movement in those trees. And that's this. It's you'll see it, I think, a couple of times at a distance, and then they zoom in on it real quick. So watch closely on this. Right dead center in the tree, in between.
That was a good catch. When he was explaining to Mireya, he's like, I got excited and I chased after it because, she doesn't like that. That's not how you're supposed to do it. She chewed Ronnie out early on.
Yes, she did.
In the seasons, in the show, one of the first seasons, I think, because that's not how you do research. Go charging after something. But that he said that was a couple 100 feet away. That didn't look that far. That looked like 40 feet.
It did not. Yeah.
I mean, that would look close.
Yeah.
So. That was a good catch.
Cannot they use a tranquilizer gun? Maybe. But what if you shot at it and it didn't put it down?
Yeah.
Is it going to be
Just
pissed
made it
at
mad.
you?
Yeah. How much
Come,
you have to know how much something weighs to know how much tranquilizer
yes.
to give
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. You might kill it
that's
if
tough.
you use too much. And you don't want your blood to be the bullet everybody's tracking in the woods later on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that was
That's pretty
another.
exciting.
So yeah, he knows he's on the right track. I mean,
Yeah.
he's tracking this thing through the woods, following the blood trail, following the down vegetation. I don't think it's being as stealthy as it normally would be. If it's the thing is injured, um, and I'm going back to saying that it is some sort of a bipedal hairy creature. If not a human with some sort of a suit on, then he's definitely chasing some sort of a cryptid like a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But they get more. Now, Russell said that he knew that he had gone way past. He knows his sat phone's gone. He didn't bring it. He knows they're going to be looking for him. He knows because of where they are. He said all this during the show that there's going to be a helicopter flying, and he does have a flare, a smoke flare. So he's going to flag them down. So he wants to get someplace where he can be found, but not too far away. And he does. He goes out onto this road on the edge of a hill, logging road, and he's got the flare. He hears the helicopter coming. He sets off the smoke. They see him. They come over and they land. They pick him up and they take him. They're happy to have found him. The whole team is looking for him. Biko and Dr. Mayor are looking on the ground. And then, of course, Bryce and the camera guys and whatnot, and the pilot are looking in the helicopter. They do find him. He is okay. So I had a picture of the helicopter there just real quick to show. And then I think I had another picture I have to look at. Here's the helicopter real quick. And then there was this. Oh, this was back when we were talking about those little things that, woven hairy little
Rings.
ornaments they were hanging in the trees. They had made a comment about the separate tribes of if it was a Bigfoot, different family groups or whatever, and each of them having their own symbols. Remember when he found those round sticks made into circles? Could that be another ornament or symbol of, a family group or something? I don't know, but very interesting. Clans, yeah. Jan said clans, so maybe something like that. But very interesting that they have things like that to do or to find. So going back to this video, they get everybody together. They find all the folks there. They get, and he gets out. Russell gets out his laptop and he puts it on the hood of the truck, and he says, "You guys are not going to believe what we captured here." Again, Russ is on a hillside. He's been tracking this thing all through the night. Now it's daytime. He's sitting on a hillside looking down into a valley, and he's got his binoculars. He sees what he's tracking down there in the bottom of the valley in a little clearing. And he's trying to tell his cameraman, Josh, where to look. And Josh is looking around. I can't see it. He eventually does get some video of this thing, and I'll play that here next. This is, again, this is really, really good stuff. And this proves, again, if this is what if this is what Russell's been tracking all night long, not only is he an expert tracker and he's still on the trail, but it's sure looks like a Bigfoot type creature that he's chasing after. So, and you would figure if it was a human and the human was injured in some way and bleeding, would that not get rid of all that suit he was wearing and just get the hell out of there? Again, if they were trying to be fooled by somebody, um, I just don't believe it was a human doing this. Anyway, all right, so let's play this. And I'll point out a little bit. I'll stop it along the way here and kind of point out. This is Russell looking with his binoculars. He's trying to describe to the cameraman where to point the camera. So the cameraman's looking out here, and Russell's trying to tell him. Now, what he wants to do is look at these. There's three little clearing patches right here right here, and right here. And the camera's moving around because the guy can't see it. But it's going to be in this middle patch right here. If you can see where my mouse is moving, that's where it's standing. It's actually that dark spot right there. But watch, because it's going back and forth. You get little glimpses of it. Okay, zoomed in right there. You can see it. That's it right there. That what they're looking at. Russell's looking at this with his binoculars. He's watching it very clearly. He knows what he's looking at. The video started out was out of focus. It was in and out, yeah, the whole focus thing with cameras and Bigfoot, right? But it does get clear, but it's going to move around quite a bit here. So just hang in there. But that's where you're going to be looking in this middle, second little patch of, again, it's right there. That's what he's looking for. It really hasn't moved yet too much. He's on it. Well, not yet. Right now. Now you see it starting to move. There it is right there. And it's starting to move up this way. It's heading up this path.
And of course, he's not focused.
And of course, he's not focused. It actually walked right through there up to now it's behind this tree. I'll back that up just a bit so you can see that. See, it's walking right through there. And then they finally get a nice clear shot. Now, this is where it finally gets focused. Now, it's right here. What the? I just saw it again. Now it's walking through here, and you don't get much of it because it kind of veers off to the side. Like that. Okay, now Russ is showing everybody on his laptop right there. Sure. It's all dark from head to toe. So whatever, it's a guy wearing a suit from head to toe or something. Now, one of the things that they're mentioning on here is one of them asked, yes, it does look very huge. Where's the arm swing? They're looking for the arm swing because that's a telltale sign of a Bigfoot is that long arms and swinging down below or right down by their knees as they're walking. Somebody mentioned that this was very slender. It wasn't as big and bulky like they imagined. They have very slender legs on this thing. But then Biko had made a comment. Biko had made a comment about the arm swing that I thought was a good thing to say. Mm-hmm. He made the assumption that maybe it was injured. Maybe in that struggle, that fight, that the arm was broken or damaged in some way, and it had it up because it was injured in like a sling type thing or walking with it up or whatever. And that way,
you could see the left arm, but you couldn't see the right arm. So they wondered if it was tucked in.
Yeah,
from maybe a fight.
Maybe that's the one maybe that's arm is bleeding or the back is bleeding because Russell had talked about. You saw that one tree with all the bloods on it, and Russell was saying he was trying to imagine the scene. And it looked like something had pushed something up against that tree, had got stabbed or scraped pretty badly by those little pointed branches that were sticking out, or maybe it broke some of them as it did that. And then it got pushed, whatever it was, got pushed back into the bush or the tree branch that was sticking out behind it, which got blood on that. We assume. We don't know what happened here. We weren't there to see the battle.
Yep.
But yeah, I could sort of see the right arm as it disappears. So let's take a look at that. I'll back that up a section here. I'll look at that closely here one more time. Let me bring it back up here. Okay, there's Russell looking at it. You can kind of see part of what looks like the right arm, or at least the upper portion of it, but you don't see anything hanging down. At least I didn't. Let's back this up just as there we go. Right, there is a quick glimpse.
Yeah, you can see the lower part of the arm lifts up.
Right there. Let's back that up again. Look right along its right side there. Right there. Wow. Folks, is that an awesome capture or what?
That'll be good to have Bryce to work his magic on it and maybe stabilize it and zoom in because the cameraman was kind of bouncing around and see what, especially the other shot too, because we've seen how much Bryce can lighten up a picture,
Yep.
and get a
Yep.
lot more detail than you think's there initially. Um, they got a lot from this episode and the previous episodes to pack into the last episode. I hope they cover it all.
I
I
know.
mean, just covering all of the samples they've collected,
Yeah.
could fill a whole show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And they're not done out in the field, so they do know how to make a cliffhanger. That's for sure.
Yes, they do. And that is a good one. And
Yeah.
like I said, they do go back out to this scene. That's what they were discussing. And there was like there, even though they don't do a next time, coming episode, they do kind of show a few clips of next time at the very tail end when the credits are running. And they do show the whole team, all of them, Bryce included. They're all out there at that scene, that battle scene. I do see a couple of castings on the ground that they did, some plaster castings. So they obviously found some footprints to cast. They're investigating that whole area in the daylight. So hopefully they'll find some hair samples. They might even find some skin samples on some of the branches that were, involved in the melee. Man, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I dare say it was two Bigfoots fighting because um, I'm still, as I've said before, folks, I'm still kind of on the fence of Bigfoot, but I tell you, this show is certainly, I'm getting more and more convinced that Bigfoot does exist. Put it that way. There's just too much good evidence, and there's too much out there in this realm. Thousands of sightings. Evidence coming back in, hair samples, DNA samples, footprints coming in right and left, and all the sightings. And I've said it before, but even all those thousands of sightings, even if just one of them was not a misidentification, just one, that means Bigfoot exists. So it's hard to say at this point that he does not exist. Yeah. How can you still be on the fence? I know. I'm a where's the bones guy? Where's a body? Why don't we have any dead bodies or bones found in the woods? I'm still that guy. I don't know. You're getting Jeff on the believer side. Yes,
Baby
he
steps. Baby steps. Yep. We'll get you there. Yeah,
There's just too much.
the fact that was tall and skinny, the reports that you hear, the descriptions you hear, very rarely are they the big massive bodybuilder or even Patty. Very rarely are they as thick and stocky as big as Patty was.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're very thin, much taller, but they're usually pretty thin. So obviously the big males can be extremely muscular, but no, it's not unusual at all to see them skinnier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Alita said there's more of it that can be than cannot be. I know. I agree. And I'm going to play that clip. I forgot to play that video or that audio clip. I'm going to play that real quick for you, and I'll turn the volume up. It's pretty loud. Maybe I won't because I did turn it up quite a bit. Again, you're going to hear all kinds of crashing noises. You're going to hear Russell whispering to his camera guy and all that. So it's really, you have to listen very, very closely to hear the growls in the background. I'll play it a couple of times. I took out all the beeps where they were cussing. I tried to get out most of the music that was being played by the show, and I wish they wouldn't do that during such a scene. Don't play that damn suspenseful music.
Right.
You're ruining my clips. As if they don't want me to do these clips. Probably. I probably would get in trouble for all this stuff. But all right, I'm going to play this real quick. I might play it twice, and it is loud, so be careful because you hear them talking at first. Don't put it right. If you're holding your phone, don't put it right up to your ear just yet. But you'll hear some growls in there if you listen closely. All right, let's try this. You hear that? there.
That sounds like a bear, didn't it? Yeah, is that weird? Do bear spray where you can reach it. Keep it close. Listen.
Okay. I don't know. Did you guys hear that? Let me know in the chat if you could hear that. If you could make out yeah, I know the music is in there a little bit. I got most of the music out of it. But you can hear the bassy growls in the background there and all that clatter. Russell said he heard branches snapping and breaking and the ground being, all the ground stuff noise. I mean, can you imagine, folks? Just try to put yourself in that spot. Here he is in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, in the dark, him and a cameraman. He's got bear spray, and that's their only defense right now is some bear spray. And you hear this going on in the woods, this commotion going on. It sounds like two animals going at it. What are you going to do? What would you do at that point?
And you got a
flashlight and bear spray, huh?
I go back in the cabin.
Nope.
Time to go.
Yeah. And what does Russell do? He says,
Let's
I know
go.
it's dangerous, but let's go. I gotta see what this is. I have to see
cameraman. What this is. Yeah. I feel bad for the cameraman. Those guys.
Turn around. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna play that one more time if you don't mind. I love this, but I don't know. Could you guys hear? Change my pants. Could you guys hear the growls? Could you hear them in that clip? I don't know. I can hear it, but I've listened to it so many times that I can.
Yeah, you really have to listen, and it's a very low.
Yeah, and I try to hold my finger up when I'm hearing it, so maybe you catch it too. I'll play it one more time. There. Right there.
You hear that?
That's music there. Just before that music there, that you can hear a long one here. Let me see if I can capture that one again. Listen for that long growl, and then you'll hear the music comes in. That was the one that really kind of got everybody.
Yeah.
Right there.
That sounds like a bear, didn't it? Yeah, is that weird? Do bear spray where you can reach it. Keep it close.
Keep it close. There.
Listen.
There. Right there. Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
Yeah, deep growls. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know what I would have done, honestly. I can't. Yeah, I'd be out of Dodge. Yeah, get the heck out of Dodge. Yeah, I would have been very disturbed by. I would want to know what it was, but I would be afraid to go in there and look. But he did. They went in there, and they got there, and maybe whatever it was, that if it was two animals, he didn't see either animal.
Yeah.
So they both split the area. So if they saw him coming or heard him coming, they took off. Him and his cameraman, of course, they got flashlights and everything else. To turn around and do a 4-minute mile. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they came upon the scene right after it happened. He said the blood was still wet when he had it in his fingers. He touched on it and the blood was still wet. So he got there right after it happened. So yeah, I don't know, but
you want me to show a spectrogram on that?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Russell has guts of steel. Yep. And at night. Yeah. Can't wait to have him on the podcast. I know, right, Christina? Yep.
Okay. So, this is really messy because it was really noisy. There's a lot going on in here, but every sound has its own location on the graph. So that's kind of why I like the spectrograph, or to be able to look at things in spectrograph. The best sound of that growl is right in this area right here. And you can see over on the chart, if I move that section over to the frequency, you can see it's from the lowest frequency this registers up to about 350 hertz. So that's all the low register. And then if you look back here, you can kind of see the same thing. There's the vertical lines is just other noises going on, but it's in there. You can see there's a line here, here, here. And so that's in that same range. And I can play this section right here. You'll hear this long bar right here is a naughty word, gets beeped out. And then the bars down here are music. But I'll stop once we get to that point and start right here. Real faint right there.
You hear that?
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what does a bear sound like? Is it a bear? So I just so happen
I have
to
a bear.
have an example of a bear growl. So this is just a recording off of YouTube or wherever, just a stock sound of a bear. Now this is a black bear. I didn't have time to grab a grizzly growl, and you'll see there's two sections here. This one's a little louder. The first one, though, you can see looks similar. It's all down in that low register. It's all kind of below about 450 hertz, maybe. But same general region. I'll play this real quick. So once you hear that, then I think if you go back and listen for specifically that sound, especially when you can see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
When you can see it coming and kind of focus your hearing on that low register, it's a little easier to hear. But yeah, the first few times seeing it on TV, it was kind of hard to catch. I'm like, I don't know what they're not sure what they're talking about. So interesting stuff, though.
Yeah, and when I put on the headphones, that's when I can really hear it. I was working on those audio files today and listening to it with my headphones, and you can hear the growling in the background. So I see that long one. It goes on for a couple seconds there, and it's like, oh my gosh. And it does have a distinct, it does kind of sound a bit like a bear. And that's what Russell thought too when he was in the woods. And that's when he looked at Josh and he said, "Do you have your bear spray handy?" "Yeah, keep it close." Because that's all they've got, that and a flashlight to go in there and check out this scene. So all right, folks, I'll tell you what, next week is going to be another good one. If there's only one more, I'm not sure. We've been doing these, putting two videos together and doing them every 2 weeks, every other Thursday. I'll have to check and see what we're going to do for if there's only one episode left. Maybe we'll do it next week, but we gotta let me work on that before, and just stay tuned. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, click on that notification bell so you know when we got new material coming out, and we'll do our very best to get this last, if it's a last episode, get it to you as quickly as possible. Sometimes they have done a follow-up episode after the woods, the work in the woods. They kind of have a meeting episode where they talk about the evidence. They didn't do it last year, which was very disappointing, but hopefully they will do it this time. And if they do, we'll cover that as well. So we put that together. So let me check with Discovery Channel, see what's going on, if there's going to be more than one. But as I said, I'm not seeing anything in the schedule yet. So Linda says there. So, but stay tuned. Click subscribe, click that notification bell. And if you like the content of the show we did here for you tonight, give us a thumbs up. That kind of gives us a gauge of how we're doing. And if you'd like to help support the show, lots of different ways you can do that. Go out to our website. It's jfree906.com, jfree906.com. Go out there. You can buy some merch. Send me. Okay, Jeff, message, please. All right. Let me look at what I'm getting here. Screen grab.
Screen grab a thumbs up. How do you give a thumbs up on YouTube?
How do you give a thumbs up on YouTube?
Is that what they're asking?
I guess. Right down at the bottom of the screen there, you should see. You have to be. You can't be. You can't be a. You see a pic. Screen grab.
She sent you a pic.
Oh, sorry. Let me look for that. Sorry.
Try and keep up, Chef.
I know. Thank you.
Lynn is way ahead of you.
Oh, she's way ahead. I mean, she's so far ahead. There we go. Let me bring this up. Hold on a second, folks. Let me bring it over here. Okay, I got it. Whoop. I thought I had it. There we go. All right. Let me add this on the screen real quick. Okay, so here we go. There it is right there. Oh, I got 51 already. So yeah, that's where you see it right down below. You'll see the little thumbs up or thumbs down. Hopefully you're not going to give us a thumbs down. We'd appreciate a thumbs up. But if you didn't, if you hated the show, I guess, whatever, you can show it that way. But yeah, you have to be a YouTube. You have to have a Google screen name or whatever, an account. If you don't, when you go to click on it, it'll say sign up so you can do this. So if you're just a casual, person that doesn't have an account with Google, then you may not be able to do that. But if you do have, please give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing. And if you want to help support the show, like I said, you can buy some merch. You could do a super chat, all that kind of thing. It does help us keep us going because it does cost money, unfortunately. So, all right. That's it for us tonight, Mike and I, and stay tuned because we will be covering the final episodes. We'll let you know when as soon as possible. All right. But look for us maybe Thursday night. All right. That's it for us. We'll catch you next time right here on the J Free 906 podcast. So good night, everybody.